And that was what we talked about last month. And the I stands for influence. So your ICE is actually influence plus confidence equals esteem. So tonight, I really wanted to talk about the confidence part, but really focus on communication. So I see there's some people who are new here to the webinar and some who are returning. So I want to say thank you. So I am Dr. Christi Monk, your confidence concierge, and I am really passionate about helping women become more confident in who they are so that they can walk out their God-given purpose in their communities and within the workplace. So the purpose of today is to talk about nonverbal and verbal communication. And I know we all know what that is, but when you put it in the perspective of how it ties into your confidence, it's a little different. And we're going to talk about how people respond when you speak in those different communication styles. We all have more than one, but it's one that we typically draw more to. And then gain clarity on how to remix your confidence. So back again to who am I? I always peg myself as a performer. And a performer basically is someone who is always doing everything for everybody and not necessarily taking care of who she is. So I learned to be a leader at a very young age, but to my detriment, as I became older, that's all I stood in. I didn't nurture my feminine side, so I guess hence I'm an alpha female, and I don't think that there's anything wrong with that when you know that, but then you also know how to put that in a perspective where it's not intimidating others. So I came up with the confidence suite based on who I had become in the midst of realizing who I was not. So I am now walking in my authentic self, and I know that because I am free when I am talking to women and sharing my story and moving them to a realm of being able to watch their confidence. And I actually had one client who just recently wrote out her expectations for a job that she was more than qualified for. Of course, they wanted to give it to somebody else, but she had been doing it. And I don't know how many of you have been placeholders for someone else, but in talking to her, I asked her, tell them why you are valued. And that takes you looking deep within yourself to really know and believe why you are valuable. But the key part to all of that is your communication. So I'll kind of share why I do what I do, love doing it, because I've seen the manifestation of my proven strategies, my personal struggles, along with the things that I've learned through education, but most of what we learn is through the environments that we have been given. We don't choose our families, so none of that you can change, but we can change how we respond to certain things in life. So diving in, as I've talked about earlier, mentioned, I want to talk about verbal versus nonverbal communication. So we all know that verbal communication is basically what we say, right? Nonverbal is what we're not saying, but what we're doing. And so, that's this and, or, the different facial expressions. And research shows that 7% of our communication is verbal and 93% is nonverbal. 55% is body language, and 38% is tone. So I didn't send out a worksheet because I really want to teach tonight, and I want you to take down notes. And everybody should have a piece of paper and a pen or pencil or crayon, whatever you want to write with, because I think there's going to be some key information that is going to be specific to you and not necessarily me asking you to fill in the blanks. So moving into confidence and your communication style. So when you talk about your confidence and how you communicate, what do, and I know it's rhetorical, but what do you think about in terms of how you communicate to your significant other, how you communicate to your boss at work, how you communicate to the coworker that you just can't stand? Everything is based on tone and body movement, right? So I want you to really think about how you interact with people daily as I go over the 5 communication styles. And the information that I'm teaching is not new. It's just that we don't really think about how that applies to our everyday life. So get your pens ready, and Bria, Develda, Loris, Selma, Teresa, I need you to be writing. So the 5 styles of communication are assertive, aggressive, passive aggressive, submissive, and manipulative. And I'll repeat those again. Assertive, aggressive, passive aggressive, submissive, and manipulative. I saw someone was typing. And if you have any questions or anything, feel free to type them in the chat box. So I'm working on my polling, but if you can, I believe you can see a little face at the bottom of your chat box to the right. And if you can just type in the answer to the question. My question is, which communication style do you think is the least used? So you can type that in the chat box. The Velda said assertive. I have other people in the class tonight. Teresa says passive aggressive. Lori, Bree says assertive. Okay. LaSoy said, what's the question? LaSoy, the question is, which communication style do you think is the least used? That's okay. And it looks like, okay, Teresa, what are you saying? Oh, she stopped. So, okay, then my next question is, which one do you think is the most used? Passive, manipulative. Which communication style is the most used? Okay. It looks like we got a variety of answers. So the answer to the first question is the least style that's used is assertive. And I think we can think that all the other styles are probably equal in nature when we think about how we interact with people on a day-to-day basis. So the first person I want to talk about is the aggressive woman. And she is characterized by certain things. You know, people may call her the angry woman. She's unapproachable. She's all of these things, but the dictionary basically characterized her by, well, this person is characterized by or tending for unprovoked offensive attacks making an all-out effort to win or succeed at anyone's expense. And this woman feels that her need supersedes everyone else's need. So it's about what she wants when she wants it, and she will win at any cost. So if I would say, if you wrote down something about the aggressive woman, she's willing to win at any cost. Because I want you to think about how or who you resonate with the most. She's demanding. She's intimidating. She's often unapproachable. She mistreats others. She's unpredictable. And so how many of you have that one person in your life that you don't know if she's coming or going? You're afraid to talk to her, or it could be him, because you don't know who you're going to get that day. And then they're belligerent. So you know, the one that's wild and throwing things and just all over the place. So just think about that. But what I want to do is also highlight how she speaks. So each one of these communication styles, I am going to basically share about who she is, what this looks like, how she speaks, and how people respond to her. And so when we talk about how she speaks, it still hinges upon the confidence that she exudes, or the lack of. So how she speaks, she's loud, she's always frowning or has some type of disjointed facial expression. She invades other space. So how many of you have that boss, if it's a female or male, that's always standing over you, hovering over you, wanting you to do something right now? Right now. I need you to do it now. And not asking any questions, just now. And her gestures are intimidating. So it could be the pointing of the fingers, hands on the hips. I mean, it could be a variety of different types of gestures. But she speaks, she comes off in this manner of almost being angry. If I could put, the builder say, I'm in her bubble. Okay, all right. So how people respond to her. This is going to be very key when you think about how you're interacting on a day-to-day basis, personally and professionally. Does it sound like you? Uncooperative? Defensive? Intimidating? Afraid? Sometimes. Because when you in an aggressive state, it's almost like a defense mechanism. Because I know when I'm challenged and I'm feeling some type of uneasiness, I may become aggressive, because that's sort of a defense mechanism for people to get off my back. So if you will, I can flip it to where I'm the aggressive one on the receiving end, and then people avoid her. So how many of you had that friend that calls you all the time and they just straight angry? Every time. There's nothing that you can say or do. You really have to listen to this person or not. I mean, because, now we have ignore, and if you kind of just like smart, you may not, you just let it roll to voicemail. So that's the aggressive woman. The next woman is the passive aggressive woman. Now, and I kind of want to share a personal story here, because this is, I think, very near and dear to my heart, because so many of us act out here and we really don't think that we're being passive aggressive. So I'm gonna say who she is first, and then tell you my story. So she is non-communicative. She doesn't share. She doesn't talk a lot until she's frustrated. She avoids conflict. She's unclear in her communication. A lot of times as women, we think that we're being clear in what we're saying, and other people are like, what? What are you talking about? But a lot of that, when you're unclear, it is because you're frustrated. So you're beyond the point of being able to think clearly yourself. You have, or she, not you, fear of intimacy. That guard, I know her all too well. Victim mentality. Again, woe is me. Everything is about you. Everybody's out to hurt you. Everybody's out to get you, and withholds the truth. She withholds the truth. So she's not telling the truth. So a few years ago, I was out on vacation with a few close friends, and when I say the Real Housewives, whichever one you look at, some of that stuff is real. Because, when you get a group of women together, there are a lot of, we have hormones in place and a lot of things going on. So in this thing, we were all having a great time. If you saw the pictures, you were like, y'all did that. Y'all were just at the top of y'all's game. But when I tell people how it ended like the stuff you see on the Housewives. The back and forth saying things to hurt each other, and then somebody wanting to fight or to raise their hand. Without going into details, the overall gist was there was a person in our group who was feeling some kind of way for whatever reason, but she appeared to us to be fine. So by the time we got to day 4 on the vacation, she wasn't even talking to us. Nobody knew why. And at the end, when things blew up, it was all of these unknowns. You should have known this, and if you were my friend, you would have known that. But the other piece to that was, you should have just told us. So the passive part was, well, I'm just not going to let people know what's going on with me, and I'm going to try to make the best of this. And then when we're having fun and acting in our norm, because we didn't do anything different than what we normally would do as friends, the next thing we know, it was this very aggressive behavior. The type of behavior that probably would have got me put out my apartment, but it didn't go down to that degree, but it was really, really bad. But when I think about a passive aggressive person, they normally avoid things, that's the passive part, so that they don't have to deal with the conflict. But when things start to build up and you become frustrated, you blow up at the simplest thing. And again, the people involved are equally as confused because there hasn't been any notion that something was wrong. So instead of letting frustrations build up, you should be willing to share whatever's going on with you. So when you think about how she speaks, in this instance, she acted as I said, as if nothing was wrong. They avoid a lot of eye contact. It's just, talking or, the whatever. I don't know how many of us use that word, because I think when you're being passive aggressive, you use words like whatever, fine, maybe too, and do what you want to do. But deep in your mind, you're having this conversation like, I really want to say this, but I'm not going to say that because I don't want to hurt nobody's feelings. But when it goes back to what I said about how much of our communication is nonverbal, that was 93%. So people aren't listening to what you say all the time. They're watching what you do. And I think the other thing that confuses people about a passive aggressive woman is that she comes off as really nice and sweet and soft spoken. Think about that. So, how do people respond to her? I've already kind of shared that they're confused. They're angry now because she done said something that she probably shouldn't have said. And I think what we don't realize is we can never take those words back. You can never take them back. So what's been said is said, and out of frustration, it not only hurts you, it hurts the person that you are actually saying those words to. Not because you mean them, but out of frustration. And those people feel betrayed because you and think of the situation of friends. If I'm your friend, we should be able to have clear communication, even though I may not like what you say and you may not like what I say. But if our communication is good, we can work past all of that. So, hope y'all got something good from that. And now it's to the submissive woman. And many of you cringed because when I kind of did my research, I was like, submissive. But submissive is not a bad thing in the terms of being able to trust others. So what I don't want you to hear is that I'm saying submissive is bad, because submissive is a good thing. And the definition says being submissive means you're ready to conform to the authority or will of others, meekly obedient or passive. So she's kind of in that passive aggressive stage, but this is the person that I would like to call the yes woman. You know how you had a yes man, they say everything to please everybody, and it's not about them, but secretly they're submitting because they don't feel that they are good enough. So when you think about being good enough, that plays directly into confidence. So then the question becomes, why are you being submissive? And who are you being submissive to? Because a lot of times we do things, it still goes back to not wanting to deal with the conflict. And when we think about how she speaks, she's also soft-spoken. She avoids eye contact, and she makes excuses for other people's actions. You know, I know a lot of women, myself included. I mean, being an aunt, I know it's just like being a mother. You learn to make excuses for other people's actions. You don't hold them accountable for what they should have done or did do. Oftentimes we feel that it's easy to just do it for them. And then secretly you become frustrated yet again because you're doing something for someone and it's not reaping you any benefit. And people often respond to this woman by discounting who she is, taking advantage of her, and then questioning her judgment. And I've seen that so many times in my own personal life at work. Because there have been times when I've been labeled as not taking enough initiative, or I don't have a sense of urgency. And it's because I've done certain things just because, okay, you know, sometimes they call me Christi checklist. I just get it on. You want me to do it? Okay, I'll get it done. But there are times when I know that I am called to do something better, but if I'm lacking in my own knowledge of something or not feeling comfortable doing a certain task, it'll just be easy for you to prescribe to me what you want me to do, and I do that. So the next woman is the manipulator. And I know none of us can even, resonate with her. We don't identify with the manipulator. And we already know who she is. She's controller. She's cunning. She does whatever she needs to do to get what you want. And I always think about her, and I don't know how many of you all remember the Players Club, but it says to use what you got to get what you want. And that's what this person does. And she also asks for things indirectly. So, maybe saying something like, I sure need to go get my hair fixed, but I don't have no money to do it. How many of you have encountered people like that? She's speaking in these terms of, I don't know, I really need, but they never come out and just ask you for what it is because they want you to offer, because they don't want to seem like I had to ask, but they manipulate you into getting what they want. And manipulation is not, specific to women, but I'm speaking in terms of that because manipulation is also a learned behavior. So think about who you're influencing when you're using that type of communication style. How people respond to her, I think that's an obvious. They frustrated in dealing with her because this person will come up to you and you don't know if she's being genuine about her request, or is she all out for self. You feel people feel used, resentful, and of course, they avoid her because they already know she coming for something. She's not genuine because everything is all about who she is. So when I think about the 4 women or the 4 types of communication styles that we've covered so far, they all have a negative connotation, and negative in the sense of they're not healthy. And I'm not saying that you probably couldn't use those in certain situations, which we shouldn't, but those are typically our go-to communication styles when we are trying to exert our influence. And influence at times can be negative, and we have to really think about how we learn to communicate so that we know which way to move forward when we're working on remixing our confidence. Because if you're in the workplace and you're passive aggressive, they're going to see you as negative anyway because you're just okay with everything. If you're aggressive, people are going to avoid you. And the positive part to that is, and I don't necessarily think positive, but I always got the trouble employees. When they want to fire somebody, they put them on my team or they put them under my management, which is really not a good thing, because they saw me as this person who could strong arm somebody, and that's not good. But me being who I am and when I'm operating in my authentic self, I typically turn those employees around. And I probably let 1 or 2 go, but in that, the communication was clear as to what they needed to do in order to improve their performance. So I can only do so much of that. And I already explained the passive aggressive person. Just think about the housewives. I don't care if it's Beverly Hills, the Potomac, New York. There's always some passive aggressive behavior going on, and that's where you also find women gossiping. Submissive, the yes woman, we won't say the yes man, and then the manipulator. So to kind of move into the positive aspect and the most healthiest of all the communication styles, it is going to be the assertive woman. So being assertive is, I guess, the sweet spot of communication, because you're talking to people in a sense to where they're not feeling frustrated, they're not feeling attacked. I'm probably going to go into all of it, but the definition of this is she gets things done. And many of us think that we are go-getters, we do what we do, and we get it done. And all of those styles can do that, but it's how are you getting it done? When you're assertive, you're respectful of others. So even flip the script to say, how many people are talking to you in those different communication styles that I mentioned? And when you think about that one person that, I really respect them because they respect me, they typically are assertive in their communication. An assertive woman expresses herself well socially and emotionally. So what this means, when she's upset or angry, she uses the appropriate moment to share her frustrations. And I'm not saying you wait 5 or 6 days, because 5 or 6 days turns into 3 to 4 months, then it turns into 5 or 6 years, and now you want a divorce because you didn't tell him that it bothers you that he doesn't take out the trash 10 years ago. So she is emotionally and socially healthy in her communication. She takes responsibility for her own actions. Yeah, she takes responsibility, because a lot of times people want to blame others for the things that they've done wrong. And we know in life we all have a choice. Good, bad, or indifferent, the choice is yours. So if you make the choice, you live with it. And we know the decision-making process is weighing the pros and cons, assessing the alternatives, and making sure that we have everything that we need to do to make sound decisions. And I don't know how many of you do this, but a woman who's assertive in her communication accepts compliments. So how many of you have ever, and just rhetorical, got a compliment from somebody and they say, "Oh girl, I like that outfit," and your normal response is, "This whole thing? Why does that even have to be a factor? Why can't you just say, thank you? I appreciate that." But when you start making excuses or ad libs about a compliment that you receive, it still hinges upon you not being confident about what you have on. But it was nice that someone noticed it. So now it's like, and it's okay to think that in your mind, but don't verbalize it. Just remember that somebody liked that outfit. In case you need an outfit to go out somewhere else another time, you got a compliment on it so you can rock that one. So how she speaks: she's calm, she's open and not defensive, and she makes good contact. So an assertive woman doesn't sit like this and talk. This is probably the passive aggressive or the aggressive. An assertive woman, she leans in when she's talking to you. She makes you feel comfortable, and she's very engaging. So that is pretty much it. And of course, how people respond to her. They believe what she says, or says, bad English. They believe what she says, and they value her input. Each person knows where they stand with her, so there's no question about who she is to them and who they are to her. She's open to the compliments, and you're able to gain respect and deserve. So when you're talking to people, they are already sizing you up to how they're going to respond to you. They're already determining whether or not you're the person they want to talk to, interact with daily, hire, whatever that is. The way you come across really is impacted by your confidence. And you can think that you're doing just fine. And if you have internal issues that you're suffering from that day or whatever, and you're out speaking to someone, that stuff still comes out through your presentation, because you are not being the authentic you. So it will take time to learn to be assertive, but we can do it. And it all is about us taking the time and listening first before we're responding to the different things in our lives. And a lot of us, we want the respect at work. We want respect at our house. And we don't want to be the leaders at home. I mean, you have to do that if you're a single mom or whatever your situation is. And I'm a single woman, and I get tired of having to do stuff for myself. So I think we have to really take time to think about the areas of our lives that are impacted by how we communicate. And we need to think about who we have communicated to in a way that we've destroyed relationships, or we haven't gotten to where we want to be in life. And then those times to where we have spoken very softly and kindly and assertively to other people. And if I could fair to say, what I see a lot is we give a lot of elderly people the assertive type of communication because of the respect we already see as them being people of authority and age. And then when we're talking to the kids and the generation of today, I mean, you can't help but be upset sometimes just because of how they respond in life. But we have to really learn to be assertive in our communication, because you can go further with communicating that way, and you're also teaching those who look up to you to communicate in that manner. Because when you think about kids and all of that, everything is about environment. So if you're passive aggressive, you learn that. You learn that from somewhere. If you're the yes woman, you learned it. It is a learned behavior. And we don't challenge why it is. We just do it. It just becomes second nature. But I will challenge each and every one of you on the call today to really think about how you're communicating. And so I guess it's saying here, what are you really saying? So there are 5 types of communication styles: aggressive, passive aggressive, submissive, assertive, and manipulative. So when you think about where you are, what are the next steps you need to take? Because what I'm saying is, how you're communicating directly impacts how far along you're getting in life. What type of results you are yielding because of the way you are speaking to other people. And it could be even speaking to yourself, because a lot of us talk to ourselves. A lot of us have this negative self-talk, and you can't talk to yourself negatively and expect to present yourself in a positive light. They just don't match. But what I want to do as we're about to end our time together tonight is to discuss the 6 steps to remixing your confidence through communication. So the first one, and you can write this one down, is become aware of how your communication style impacts how you respond to others. Because we all have people who frustrate us. We all have people we want to avoid. And we all just simply don't even want to deal with conflict today. You done worked all day, and then you have to come home and deal with that same stuff too. Think about that one. Acknowledge why you have a preferred communication style. Was it something that you learned? Or is it just something that's easy for you to fall into? Why do you do what you do? Take an objective look at the entire situation, because we know that saying, there's 3 sides to the story: your side, their side, and the truth. Always take a holistic view of that situation, because we don't know the emotions of that person. We don't know what triggers we're setting off that could have been residue from a bad relationship, a bad day. We don't know. We simply don't know, but we go into defense mechanism when things are not going the way that we expect, and we always think that somebody's out to get us. So I'm going to get you before you get me. And that's just the survival mode that people go into. Take responsibilities for your actions and reactions. Your actions and reactions. Because like I said, once you say something, you can't take it back. Because even if you apologize, that residue is still going to be there. And especially in your key relationships, people will never forget it. And I don't know how many of us have said, I'll forgive them, but I won't forget. That's not good. That is simply not good. Learn to be assertive in expressing yourself. Be honest about what you want. And I say the best way to do this is to take the advice you give to other people. So how many of your friends say, well, girl, what would you do? So if it were me, I would do X. Now, within reason, a lot of times we do give good advice. But when we're in that situation, that don't apply to me. Because that situation was different. Take the advice that you give to others. And then learn to say no. I can't say how this is important. When you learn to say no without explaining, people accept that. But if they know you're going to be submissive and just do it, people typically come to the person they don't have to explain nothing to. So work on saying no. If it doesn't fit in your schedule, if it is not something that you want to do, you don't have to explain to people why you don't want to do it, because people are quick to just say no to you. And in your passive aggressive mode, you want to ask them, but you won't, because you don't want to hear what they have to say. So to put it into practice, just learn to say no. And the last one is, that's actually 7, adjust your belief system. What do you believe about yourself? What do you believe? What do you believe? And why do you believe? So when you think about how you responded and showed up in the world up until this day, how has your communication played a part in your confidence? How has it played a part? So, are you ready to rock your ice? And rocking your ice, again, I go back to, this is my theme, influence plus confidence equals esteem. And we're already talking about remixing your confidence through communication. And so when we think about the influence, the confidence, and the esteem, those things are already within us. But there have been things in our lives that have caused us to have a skewed view of who we really are, because we've learned to become who people said we were or who they wanted us to be. So being the authentic you pretty much has to be remixed, because we know deep within our hearts what we're passionate about. We know what we don't like, but we don't have the, confidence, if I go back to that word, to express that to other people, because we don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. I don't want them mad at me. I don't need to lose another friend. But you know what? As you're going to the next level in life, everybody can't go with you. But why is it that you don't want to hurt someone else's feelings, but you allow them to hurt yours? So when you're being, and I guess passive aggressive keeps, popping up in my head, you will get just that. You will get people walking over you, and the end result of that is you being angry, upset, and frustrated. And then when you go off, you typically don't went off on the wrong person, but that was the straw that broke the camel's back. So I want to challenge each and every one of you to begin to move into the mode of assertiveness in your communication. And so what I've done, I've created your influence IQ quiz, and the influence IQ quiz actually focuses on 4 areas of your life, and I think there are 4 realms of influence, which is communication, which I probably can't highlight enough, because there's just, communication goes into everything. Communication goes into our relationships, which would be the second pillar. Then we're talking about productivity, or how we act and respond. Then the last one is leadership. So leadership is not a title, it's an action. And we all lead in each and every one of those communication styles. We are influencing other people through those communication styles. So this is not to, badger anyone, because I've been all of them. I'm probably submissive. If it's like the 5 love languages, submissive it's probably the lowest one. But we all do it. So we all have an opportunity to move into the assertive communication style. But what I want to do is to invite you to join my Facebook group called the Confidence Suite. And also just to go out to that web link, your Influence IQ quiz, is 2 Qs, to take your quiz just to see where you stand. And I also offer a complimentary consultation session to kind of talk through your results and next steps for you. I am also going to be launching my 4-week program, which is actually going to be called the Confidence Remix, 4 weeks to reinventing yourself. And I would like to invite you all to join me on my next webinar, which is February the 18th, and we are going to be talking about the E in ICE, which is elevating your esteem. So I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me tonight, and I just wanted to open it up for questions. Now everyone is unmuted, and if you have any questions for me that you would like to share, I'm open to you. Thanks everyone for joining. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So it seems like we don't have any questions. And again, it is yourinfluenceiqquiz.com. It is time. Oh, she said, oh, did I mute you? Can you hear us? No, it did that. Let's see. Hold on. Can you hear me now? If you have a question, you can ask a question button. It's down there with the little person. Thank you, Monique. Thank you, Bree. Thank you, everyone. Give voice. So there is a question. Can you hear me? Okay. So, and if you don't want to ask it out, you can type it in the chat box, because we're almost at time. All right. Well, thank you all so much. And again, I invite you to join the Facebook group. It's the Confidence Suite. And to go out there and take your free Influence IQ quiz. And I will see you all next time. So be on the lookout for the next email and the invite to the webinar. Have a good evening. Thank you, Develda. Bye-bye.